Episode number 81 of Heavy or Not, the podcast, is talking about sports reform. I love sports reform. This is Mark Rauterkus. I've been coaching 50 years, more than a dozen at the college level, and I've had many successful reform efforts. College football needs a structural reset. I think it's best to talk about college football. However, a couple years ago, the swimming coach at Cal Berkeley, Dave Durden, was at a speakers event with our International Swim Coaches Association, and I asked him, what do you think about all of this? And Cal Berkeley had just joined the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it caused headaches. And we asked him, what does he think? He says, we liked it this the way it was, where all the kids from California could stay in the West Coast, at least, and go to Arizona or the state of Washington and keep in the same time zone. So he was definitely not in favor of it. But this is geared a little more to football. And it's performance-based, geographically grounded model for the top 80 in one tier, and then another set of teams in the sub-tier. It could be 40 teams. It could be 20. I don't care what the sub-tier is as far as numbers. And I believe it'll be a great opportunity to ask those teams if they want in or out. It offers stability. It keeps the rivalries intact, accountability, and competitive integrity. All of these are very valuable for the sport and for the media and for the public. College football reform is coming into focus a little more on our Substack for Heavy or Not, but it's also part of 4rs.org. We're going to reform sports. It's broken at the top levels. The current system rewards wealth over achievement, and it abandons tradition. It leaves fans disconnected from the sport they love, and the problems are structural, not cosmetic. There's a competitive imbalance. The gap between the haves and have-nots is growing, and it's not shrinking. And budgets don't equal results. So spending drives access, but it rarely guarantees performance. And the geography has been totally abandoned. Teams are now traveling thousands of miles for conference games, and rivalries have been destroyed. So here's the core idea. The top flight is a top tier of 80 programs. And these are structured around principles that prioritize competition over commerce, and the framework delivers what fans, players, and institutions actually need. They need meaningful games, they want regional pride, and they want fair pathways to success. So first and foremost is geography, where regional proximity drives pod placement and rivalries are preserved. Second is performance. So the on-field results are going to determine the standings, and it's not going to be some historical brand value. We had problems in this year where Miami, now playing for the national championship, didn't even make it to the ACC title game. However, they made it into the CFP, the college football playoffs, but they weren't first or second in the conference. So that just throws performance out the window. Investment does serve as a bit of a qualifier. Resources do open doors, but they don't guarantee seats at the table. And it has annual accountability. So the movement between tiers, it's going to keep the programs honest and hungry. And so this is not expansion, but it's more for clarity.
Here's a reading of the top 80 teams that would make the grade for the top tier. These teams are put into 8 different pods. Each pod has 10 teams. The pod game schedule is then 9 games, so that each team plays every team within its pod in the regular season. One open date fits into every team's schedule, so a team can schedule an exhibition game if desired. The Gridiron pod of the Northeast includes Syracuse, Boston College, Rutgers, West Virginia, Maryland, Pittsburgh, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Liberty. The Trench pod centers on the Carolinas and includes North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, Duke, Clemson, South Carolina, James Madison, Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Tackle pod of the Southeast includes Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Troy, Miami of Florida, Florida State, Florida, UCF, and Georgia Tech. The pressure pod of the South Central includes Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Tulane, Memphis, Kentucky, Missouri, Nebraska, and Louisville. The block pod of Texas and Oklahoma includes Texas, Baylor, Houston, SMU, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, UTSA, Texas Christian University, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. The Huddle pod is around the Great Lakes and includes Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and Cincinnati. The Blitz pod covers the plains and mountains and includes BYU, Kansas, Kansas State, Colorado, Utah, Air Force Academy, Wyoming, Boise State, Iowa State, and Iowa. The Grandstand pod is of the West and the Pacific, and it includes California, San Diego State, UCLA, Stanford, Arizona, Arizona State, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Fresno State.
Top 80 are going to make for a framework. It's built on merit and not mythology. So the top 80s are the highest, most stable competitive tier. It's D1 top flight football, but it's more than a P4. It's more than a P5. It allows for some of the other teams to slide in there. The Boise States, the Cincinnati's, teams that are super hot. Tulane can get into this program and compete and maybe excel. And even James Madison does find itself right on the threshold of being in the top 80, but should it drop or should another team pick up, they're going to be able to make it. Liberty's in. So it's a large enough for national relevance, and it represents every region and every major market, but it's small enough to maintain quality, ensuring competitive balance and meaningful matchups. It's not a popularity contest. So fan bases and social medias don't really determine entry, and it's not a list of brands or about historical prestige. It's not a permanent membership club. So no program is guaranteed its spot indefinitely. So it's about entry, and then once the survival happens, it's earned. So the first 10, these are the programs that just fall below the cut due to a combined performance and
here's a
investment
list of
reality.
all the sub-list teams. These teams don't get to play for the national championship because they're not in the top 80. However, if they win out and are one of the 5 that can relegate to the top league, the next year they can play in the top tier.
Akron,
Here's a list of all
Arkansas
the sub-list
State,
teams.
Army,
These teams
Ball State,
don't get to play
Bowling Green,
for the national
Buffalo,
championship because
Central
they're not
Michigan,
in the top 80.
Charlotte,
However,
Colorado
if they
State,
win out
East Carolina,
and are one of the 5
Eastern
that
Michigan,
can relegate
Florida,
to the top
International,
league, the next year
Florida Atlantic,
they can
Georgia,
play in
Southern
the top
Georgia
tier.
State, Hawaii, Jacksonville State, Kent State, Kennesaw State, Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Tech, Louisiana Monroe, Marshall, Miami, Ohio, Middle Tennessee, Navy, Nevada, New Mexico, Mexico State, Northern Illinois, North Texas, Ohio, University, Old Dominion, Oregon State, Rice, Sam Houston, San Jose State, South Alabama, South Florida, Southern Mississippi Temple, Texas State, Toledo, Tulsa, UAB, UConn, UMass, UNLV, UTEP, Utah State, Washington State, Western Kentucky, Western Michigan.
Institutions are not committed to the resources at a certain level, they might not make it into the top tier. The competitive ceilings were already quite visible with institutions with caps and expectations. And this is not a punishment, but it's an honest layer so that the top 80 programs can do what they do. And then those other programs, I believe, are going to have a lot of success in their own right, playing for a bigger spot. When we did the breakdown of slicing the competitive programs all in D1, Army and Navy got on the outside, but Air Force Academy made it in. We want to preserve that Army-Navy game. It sort of falls outside of the standard season. The Army and Navy need special attention. Now, maybe that special is a little bit like the way we treat Notre Dame, but they have unique scheduling. They have certain cultural importance. They have different recruiting issues. So they should remain outside this and then decide if they want to get in or not. But they'll be able to maybe have a national independent schedule. And that's sort of where I put Notre Dame as well. The Grandstand, she can be on its own. If Notre Dame football wants to be an independent brand and schedule its own games, that's going to be a possibility, and that would be fine, but it would not be able to make the national championship playoffs. They would be able to have some bowl games and be able to play Army and Navy and be able to schedule, because each of the other teams are going to have an opportunity to have some open dates, to have one open date at least. Regional pods. These are not conferences. I want to reject the word conference. The term carries baggages from decades of television-driven expansion, and it really is broken now. Regional pods offer shorter travel, cleaner storytelling for the media and the fans. It protects our rivalries here in Pittsburgh. We should be playing Penn State every year. We should be playing WVU every year. We should be playing teams in our area, and they sometimes don't happen at all or don't happen for decades. All those in-state rivalries are going to be honored, with one state as an exception. These pods, there's going to be 8 of them. We have to come up with a name of them. The top tier pods, we've used football teams. Each pod contains 10 teams, and they're clustered by geography, and they're football, neutral, reusable. If a pod wants to rename itself or have a sponsor or something, Dr. Pepper pod, that would be fine. But I'm not using numbers or Roman numerals or letters. Nothing's implied as far as a hierarchy. There are 8 pods. I call them Gridiron: the tackle pod, the block pod, the pressure pod, the trench pod, the Blitz pod, the Huddle pod, and the Grandstand pod. So we just needed 8 names to help solidify the new approach. So geography is pretty much non-negotiable. All in-state rivals stay together. So Michigan plays Michigan State, Alabama plays Auburn, Florida plays Florida State. These games define the seasons. Now the border rivals stay together. So there's some cross-state rivalries that were built over decades, and we're trying to keep those intact as well. And there are historical series that are protected, long-standing annual matchups. I think all those are important, and the conferences have screwed this up. Okay, so pods make sense on a map, and we will present the map so everybody can see where the pins drop. There are sub-leagues below the top tier, and these sub-leagues each have 10 teams or less, and they should come from the same geographic logic, and they'll have identical rules for the most part for what happens on the top teams. But the sub-tier gives hope, so that every program has a path forward. If you're at a small school, let's say Bowling Green, and you win out and you have a new turn of approach, and you want to become better than Ohio State, and you invest all that money and you win, you can play your way into the bigger pod, the top tier, and then you can, if you win, you'll stay there. Maybe someday Ohio State won't win anything and they'll drop it. There's hope and there's movement. So every year we're going to move 5 teams from the upper tier to the lower tier, and this is relegation, and likewise from the lower tier to the upper tier. So every game matters each week, and the narrative is continually making sense. It's stories that fans can follow. So there's promotion and relegation. It's annual, and I think we would have a conference among the people on championship week, and we would be able to decide about the relegation. And it's a 1-for-1 swap. So one team is going to go up, and one team is going to go down. The last place team in the top tier drops down to the sub-league. We don't have to have committees. We don't have to have votes. Standings will speak for themselves. It's performance on the field, and that's the currency that matters most. This model rewards performance, it preserves tradition, it controls spending, arms race, it gives fans clarity, and it creates regional consequences. Complacency has a cost. If you're going to sit on your laurels and get skunked year in and year out, it's no fun for anybody. Be able to look at how a 10-team season unfolds with wins, losses, and ties. And it should be able, maybe on points scored. If it's more than a certain number, then it would be helpful in a tiebreaker. The tiebreakers and how those are judged are best for another day. And maybe each pod could decide its own. But polling won't matter. You won't be based on how you do on your preseason polls. So the college football doesn't need it needs structure. The proposal doesn't eliminate the chaos, it contains it by creating clear pathways, defined consequences, transparent rules, and we channel the sport's competitive energy into a system that makes sense. The chaos becomes a feature, not a bug, and every upset matters, every season finale has stakes, and every program has hopes. Now, these slides are available for a download. It's probably best to see them on the Substack or the 4rs.org site.
The podcast, Heavy or Not, uses characters and many voices within our episodes. And one of the mainstays of the program is artificial intelligence, or AI. Under no circumstances will we use AI to make believe the comments are coming from a real person.
Our new TV show, Heavy or Not, has a deep dive associated podcast too. Stay in touch so we can include your wisdom in these endeavors. Sign up at swimI.org.